Good morning, everyone. Today we have Shasvathi Siva, very famous for her book Divorce is Normal. In her book, the first sentence she has written is that, how do we pronounce the word? Is it divorce or divorce? Okay, so I think we call in both the ways, but no matter how do you pronounce the word, the title of her book goes, divorce is shameful, that's deleted, scary, deleted, and then wrong, deleted, and it's put up as normal. My first question is about why divorce is normal.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. So happy to be here and so happy to be talking to you, Tissy. Um, Great question to start off with. Actually, the very name of the book and why I chose it was because I feel like there is so much stigma attached to divorce, and while marriage is really like celebrated, divorce is really not. It's almost seen like a sin. It's seen like a big mistake that we make. But I think like if marriage is a choice, then divorce is very much an equal choice, that you should be able to make. So just like in especially in this country, marriage is seen as such a normal thing, like it's the next thing that you take, when you turn a certain age and when you look at it as like a milestone. So marriage is very normal in our culture, so why not divorce? So that's the reason I picked it. And it also sort of it's sort of controversial also for a lot of people, because a lot of people don't agree that divorce is normal, but I'm here to sort of challenge that also, to say that why not, then marriage is also, then don't call that also normal. So if that is a choice, then divorce is an equal choice. So that's what I believe.
Okay, so picking up from there, you have spoken about the label of being a divorcee. Okay, and you mentioned that you will try not to be called or to be labeled as a divorcee, because divorce talks about someone's past, but married or single talks about someone's present. So what's the problem of being called or labeled as a divorcee even after the divorce?
So, exactly what you said. If you are single right now, that is your present. If you are married right now, that is your present. You got divorced, that is literally in the past tense. The word divorcee itself is a label meant to shame and meant to, it's like a reminder every time that, hey, you made this decision that society does not accept. So we will call you this. But you don't think of that when you say that somebody is single, when somebody, or even when you say unmarried, it's still fine because it still defines saying what you are in the present. But because I took a decision in the past and because that decision got over, I am done with the divorce, I don't need to still be defined, and my identity does not need to be attached and associated with the label divorcee. Even if you see, it is in forms, it is in the way it comes up in like multiple ways. Even if you need to apply for like a visa or a passport, even there you need to mention that you are a divorcee or not. And while legally, yes, it might be applicable in some cases. For example, if you get married a second time, third time, fourth time, and you need to go and register it, fine, then that is an acceptable thing. But in regular societal terms, and when you go to events and when you are meeting other people, there is no need to be defined by yet another choice that you make in life, just like you make multiple other choices. All of that does not become like your identity. So I think for all the time that I was single after my divorce also, I refused to be called a divorcee. Even in like a small passing, in a regular kind of comment, I was not, I would take it up with the person to say, hey, don't call a person that. Like, I don't think it's necessary, like, at all. So I think I feel very strongly about that. And if you're single, you're single. If you're married, or anything else that you want to be, you choose to be defined by. But something that happened in your past, I mean, leave it in the past. You don't need to carry it along, and you don't need to make it your identity to say that, oh, I am a divorcee. Don't need to say, yeah, I was married, I got divorced, I'm currently single. I think it's far more simpler and not attached to like a judgmental label with that.
In Kerala, I while researching, I found that most number of cases of divorce in India is reported in Kerala. Yeah, and it is also found that women in Kerala are okay in the sense they are comfortable of saying aloud or approaching, the required people, or maybe it might be court or it might be the dear ones that they don't want to live in any stereotype institutionalized setting like marriage, and they're ready to come out. And at the same time, there is also a statement that in Kerala that that happily divorced, uh, especially in the case of women, as you mentioned about women. My question next is to you is about research says that women are comparatively happier and able to handle the trauma that they had after divorce much better than men. And in your book, you have expressed about your experience as well as the experience of so many other people. What's your take on that?
I think someone told me this. It's very beautifully told that women, I think from when like we are born, we are always taught that one day you're going to leave the house. One day you're going to go into somebody else's house. So I think we are always prepared to be uprooted at some point of time. We are always prepared for our identity to change from your father's name to your husband's name. So I think it's just something that happens like throughout our lives. For men, that's not the case. Men are not uprooted from their, whether it's from their parents, whether it's from their family. It's always seen as like the woman goes into the man's family. So I think when that happens in terms of like a divorce, and you feel, of course, you feel uprooted. Of course, you feel like your life has been sort of it's changed in every way possible. I just think we are better prepared to kind of face it, and I'm not saying that makes it easier. Of course, it's more difficult, but I think it's at least a situation that we are not unfamiliar with when you think of uprooting yourself. So I think that then becomes the most important distinction per se on how we handle things between like men and women.
Yeah, connected to that, it is also observed, okay, research data says that women are the first ones, okay, if you look at the gender differences, women are the first ones who report that there is something wrong in marriage, okay. It might not be in a very formal manner to the court or to the lawyer, but at least to the friends or the their own family that something is not going right in our marital relationship. And also found that in romantic relationship women are the first one who initiate for the breakups. So I think maybe in your book as well, how do women notice that, okay, that this is enough of this emotional labor, or this is enough of this emotional suffering, and I'm suffering for me and suffering for my partner and the family and the distant family, okay. So how do they notice it, and what makes them report it, what makes them take the first step?
See, I think while it is gendered to a large extent, I'm not here to say that only women suffer. I don't think that's the case. I think anybody can suffer in an unhappy relationship, in a traumatic relationship. It is okay for it's not okay, but I mean that it is accepted that and known fact that men or women could suffer in this equation. But I think women do bear a bigger brunt of it purely from a point of culturally how it is expected and how women are told to keep families together. It's often told that, oh, women are the glue of the family. Women are the ones who sort of keep it together. Women are of course, there's the pressure of having a baby, having an entire family put together, raising the children. All of it then falls unfairly on one side of this two people equation. So I think because of that also, there is a lot more prevalent abuse towards women, far more than it is to men. So I think now with the newer times and the digital age that we live in, and the more information that we are also able to sort of access, I think women now have more courage to come forward than our grandmothers' generation never had that opportunity. Our mothers maybe a little bit more, but as we progress and as newer generations are coming into this kind of an equation, I think there is more courage. I think there is more availability of resources, availability of support to be able to even have this conversation. Like you said, not everything might be like a legal complaint, not everything might be something that will go to say the police station, but it could be something that you feel more comfortable sharing with like a loved one, like a family or a really close friend or a cousin, etc. So I think that courage is definitely fast growing, and I hope it becomes a much more common thing, that everybody feels comfortable to have that support system built around, that they are able to go and sort of confide in people and find the help that they are looking for.
That takes me to the next question on men in a marital relation. So generally it is said that gender socialization, when it happens, and most of the time women become the victims or survivors, and they are the ones who would be suffering. So what is your take, like while you spoke about the couple, different kind of people, and what are the role of men play there? How do they suffer? What are the sufferings? Because they are supposed to be the breadwinners of the family. They are supposed to lead the family. So how much burdened or how much struggles or sufferings that they are going through? And most of the time, men are, at times they are being silent, in some kind of, relations wherein they're not supposed to emotionally express their, problems or issues, not in the family and not even, with the closed ones. So when it comes to this, traumatic, long-lasting, issues such marriage, what about the men? How do they handle it?
See, exactly like what I said, I think suffering is not something that is only limited to one gender. It is across, it is dependent on the kind of problem also. So it's not possible for me to say that this is exactly what men go through, just like I cannot say this is exactly what women go through, because the kind of issues are also so many, the kind of problems that people face and the reasons that different people want to get out of a marriage or a relationship are also so vast and so varied. But I think slowly there are a lot of, so I run a support group of almost like 750 people now, and there are a lot of men who are a part of the support group as well, and who are slowly able to open up. I do agree with you when you say that men are told to be emotionally shut down, and boys don't cry kind of thing are told to kids only. So you're literally brought up with that kind of a sentiment. But I think the most important thing is we have a lot of resources today. We have access to therapy, we have access to counseling, we have a lot more support that is ready to help. So I think it is completely become like a norm right now that if you are in an unhappy marriage or if you are in an unhappy relationship, you look out for the right kind of resources to find that that help that you need. So while it is gendered, I feel it is perfectly normal for even men to reach out, get that help to go through whatever they are going. So definitely.
Yeah, the very title of divorce is normal itself, brings the attention of the society that there is something culturally linked with that. So what are the cultural stereotypes associated with divorce? And also in terms of you mentioned that breaking stereotypes is not at the sole responsibility of the couple who are going through the process, but it also lies on the entire society. So how do we take the lead in doing it?
I think when it's a marriage, it's not just between two people, it's not just between a man and a woman, it is two families, it is multiple people coming together, it is multiple things that need to fall into place for a marriage to even happen today. So when you talk about a divorce or when you talk about a separation, then I think that becomes the most difficult part of it, because it's no longer just saying that, hey, you and I are not working out, let's part ways, because there will be mother involved, a father involved, siblings, multiple people. So I think then what happens is you're opening it up to that many opinions, and you're opening it up to that many people who are going to try and resist it for all you know, right? So then culturally that's what becomes the problem also, because we all worry about what other people are going to say. We are all going to worry about, oh, what is my sister going to think, what is my brother going to think, what is my neighbor going to say, what is my driver going to say. All of it becomes a thing that we overthink and we really worry about. Like parents really worry about bringing their daughters back home, and that is a very major reason why parents don't encourage a divorce or encourage their, particularly their daughters also, because they're like, I cannot bring her back home. What will people around me say? So all of that is a lot of cultural pressure that, you know, that adds to what the couple is already going through, to actually navigate through that, to convince the people around, first the nearest, mainly family, to sort of put it forward that no, I cannot be in this relationship, I don't want to be in this marriage. And then first they need to be convinced, and only then can it become like a bigger what do you say, almost like an event where others get to know, and then, you know, like your secondary circle, your friend circle, all of that. So I think cultural pressure is a lot on the couple, especially in the Indian context, because marriage is considered to be very, very sacred over here. It's a holy thing. So when you think of like a divorce, and when you think of breaking something that is considered as sacred, then you are seen as someone who's committing a sin, as someone who is a failure in something that you're supposed to, you know, be really good at. And, you know, whether you're, even if you're suffering, you're told to keep quiet, like, you know, it's okay, this happens, or this is how sometimes men will behave, this is what will happen, just kind of go with it, kind of thing. So then that is again a lot of cultural pressure that comes from.
So is that called a generational trauma, that, you know, when you're reporting to your parents or, you know, whoever, my parents are where, you know, we had issues in our marriage and we are handling it, okay, your grandparents were doing it, so you also supposed to, you know, carry on this trauma. So how
100%.
Yeah.
Even I have heard it too. 100% generational trauma.
Yeah.
That is not the easiest to break through also. So it's really, again, like I said, sometimes it could take months, sometimes it could even take years to convince your family to support you, to stand by you, to actually, you know, make this happen. Because without that, you need to have a very good support system with your friends. You need to be very financially independent firstly, to be even able to take that decision to, if you need to move out, if you need to find a house for yourself, if you need to take care of your everyday bills and all of that. So you need to be financially independent. You need to have a really good support system to support you emotionally, physically, even financially if needed. So I think having your family on your side is definitely very, very important.
That's true. So we'll take a pause now, and we'll have some questions from the audience. So if you would like to have any question to Shasvathi. Yeah.
Hi.
Hello. So most of the time, divorce is almost like a very traumatic experience. It's almost like a psychological death. So, so then how do you decide on it? How do you decide stop going for therapy? How do you decide on how much you have to work on it? And how do you make that call? That is one thing. The other thing is almost every time one of the partner reaches that point first, the other person is actually left behind. So how do you get to an amicable kind of a consensual divorce? Or is it actually possible, or is it actually a time which actually gets you there?
Few things there, right? Like some of this are very pointed in the sense that it is entirely between the two people. Like you said, one person might want it, but one person might not want it. But it is also very subjective to why one person wants it and why one person does not want it. So I think to a large extent, I think things like counseling, things like therapy, things like even talking to other people also sort of helps a lot, because there is one thing is to continuously talk to your partner, but another thing is also to find third-party resources and talk to other people who've sort of gone through similar experiences to understand, you know, what do you do from here on. So while it is very subjective because of the reason, right? There is obviously a reason why one person wants to move on, and there is obviously a reason why one person does not want to kind of like move on. But not all divorces are traumatic. Some are very, very traumatic. So on a scale of 1 to 10, you will have a range of different kinds of marriages. Same way, different kinds of divorces also. I know of couples who are divorced and extremely good friends, are able to sort of continue hanging out together. In fact, might even like co-parent together. And there are people who cannot even, you know, look at the person ever again because it has been highly traumatic. So I think again over there, and even at least for me, what I did, I did a lot of video journaling. I started talking to my friends on an everyday basis, even like, you know, putting down every small thought and big thought, so that you're not getting too overwhelmed by the trauma of it and not getting too bogged down by it. Of course you'll get bogged down, of course there'll be difficult times, but since we cannot avoid those difficult times, the easier thing to do is to learn how to deal with the difficulty rather than trying to stop anything difficult like coming your way. So even when it is traumatic, I think I relied a lot on therapy. I relied a lot on my friends and my parents to kind of help me through that entire phase. How do I?
You can stop therapy and you'll have to move further.
That is up to the therapist to tell you that. So unless you voluntarily want to stop because you feel like you have had enough, which honestly, personally, I did not get to that point, but there was a point where the therapist would kind of, we would have like these monthly check-ins to be like, okay, what is the progress so far? So in about say 4 months or 5 months, there was a checkpoint to say, okay, here's where we started and here's where we have come. So here is the progress that we have done. So after about, I think, almost 2.5 years, when you look back 2.5 years ago and then you see how far you have come along, and someone needs to kind of tell you that. That's like a reality check that the therapist would give you to say that, hey, you came with 10 points that you wanted to kind of get over, and we are at like 7 right now. So this is a great place to be. So maybe now instead of meeting twice a week, we will meet once in 2 weeks. So you don't just stop therapy overnight, right? You wean out of it, and that's something a really good therapist will be able to guide you through, to say that, okay, since you have made so much progress and since you have these coping mechanisms and since you know what to do, suppose you have a panicky situation or you're reminded of some kind of a trauma all over again, you've been taught how to deal with it, right? So then you just wean off therapy, and then you eventually bring it down, and then only you stop it.
Okay, we can
I hope that answers your question.
So connected to what he asked, I also would like to ask you that in the book, the lawyer is asking you, do you really need a divorce? And you're saying yes. And that makes you think about, the life that you had. And you also mentioned about the marriage in our society is a divine, sacred, it's a completely a private affair, okay, between two people. And now you are, your private life is in public. You have to disclose so many things. Maybe, the proof, in the sense text message and the conversations, and if there is any, remarks regarding abuse or everything becomes, becoming public. So you'll have to look at things, in an evidence point of view. How was it? In the sense, how did you go through
Terrible,
that
horrible
process? Yeah.
See, there are 2 kinds of divorces that happen in our country. One is a mutual consent and one is a contested divorce. Mutual consent, as the name mentions, is the 2 people have consented to the divorce and they have decided to go ahead with it. And contested is when, very similar to what he said, is one person wants it and the other person does not want it. So maybe the person who wants it has filed for a divorce and the other person has to fight it. So when it is a mutual consent, a lot of your private, exactly what you said, it could be your texts, photos, any kind of memories that you sort of build together, you can still keep it private to a large extent because you're doing it mutually. You're both ready for it. So then it is not a problem. But when you go for a contested divorce, again, it is very difficult. It can be very, very unnerving to see, and because you wouldn't know what is in the other petition, it could be full of surprises. You never know what is put in the next point that you're going to be reading. So it is definitely not at all easy. I think again, I will say the word support system in every answer that I give, because I really think through every stage of the divorce or anything difficult that happens even after, I think it's really, really important that whoever you choose to be, close to you, again, this is one of those times where you cannot avoid how difficult it is. You just need to learn to deal with, how can you make this situation a little easier. And also really important to choose a really good lawyer for yourself. And really good lawyer does not mean that you need to shell out so much of money. It means that you just need, it's like finding a good doctor for yourself. Like, you want to be comfortable, when you meet your doctor, to say that, no, my pain is over here, whatever it is. Similarly, for a lawyer, you need to be able to comfortably talk about the situation and talk about what you're going through to find a good solution. So if your private details are out there and private memories etc are out there, you need a really good lawyer to say how do you combat these, how do you reply to these, and what do you do to, if you are feeling so uncomfortable about it, what do you do to ensure that somewhere you nip it at the bud and you kind of like are able to stop the fight. Nobody wants to be in court for many years. Everybody, we all want to sort of finish it, move on to happier things, move on to better things in life. So I think it is extremely difficult, not at all. I wouldn't discount that for even a second. I think it's just about empowering yourself with tools that will help you navigate that phase for sure.
So after your experience in divorce and going through all this, so you have started your social media group, and you had collected so many experiences from different people and people of different age, of different status and all that. So my question towards you is that, how do young generation handle this, and I'm also hearing that, people are choosing not to get married, and people are scared of marriage, especially young girls, they don't want to get married because this is, something scary, and, so these kind of things, and how much, as a person who is gone through it and, have been speaking and listening to so many experiences, what would you like to talk to the young generation, or what is their perspective? So what are the preparations one need to do before getting into marriage?
I think the younger generation is just badass. I think they are extremely self-aware. I think they really know much more than what my generation as a millennial and maybe like my mom, grandmother. I think the newer generation who are entering their 20s, I think are far more aware and far more resilient and far more confident in their things. You will see a big shift between millennials and Gen Z, even like at work, even the way they work as compared to what our generation looked like is completely different, and that translates to personal life, professional, in everything. So from what I have seen, even in my support group, actually I have not heard of people so far saying that they are scared, because I feel like because of the agency that the younger generation has, and because of the fact that today, and literally the women now in their 20s and 30s are almost the first generation to be completely financially independent. Even our mothers, mostly maybe a minority population were, but in the urban scape, we are the first generation to be completely financially independent. And having financial independence is a very, very powerful tool for anybody needing to get out of a difficult situation. And especially like a marriage. So I feel like divorce today has become an easier choice and a more, it's seen as a more practical solution to say, if it doesn't work out, I'll have a few good years, but at least I have the option. I don't need to feel like I am trapped in like an unhappy situation, or I'm trapped in a place which is not giving me any happiness. So I actually have a lot of hope for the younger generation, and I actually feel like they are really going to change the way we look at marriage and divorce, because it's very modern. They are born into the digital age. They have a very different upbringing. And I think people are definitely opening up for sure. So I think that's going to be like a good thing to look forward to.
Thank you. I think, like the book says, the end of the book goes like this, okay? Reading and writing this book itself for Shasvathi is a step to normalize divorce. And for the readers like us, reading this book itself, is going to be a step to normalize divorce. So thank you so much, Shasvathi. And I have a small request and a surprise for you. And she said she's trained in Carnatic singing. So, are you sure?
I'm sorry. No.
Okay.
I'm not singing.
Thank you. Maybe you can follow her in her Insta, and she sings very well. So I was requesting her to sing a song for us. Maybe we can see her,
That is more of a shock, not a surprise right now.
Okay.